it's better together. Tastes amazing, this crazy combo make you want the great things. Cookie meat, the chocolate, can't live without it. 100% goodness, me want it. Devon digestive, rich chocolate with cookie crunchness.
Cookie beats chocolate in Devon Chocolate Digestive. Better because it's both.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of For the Mommies series powered by VM Foundation. Today, we're going to be diving into a very important subject, something that we often neglect. And I'm so happy that we have our special guest here today, and we'll be diving right into it. I'm your co-host, Jamila Pinto, a first-time mom and an entertainment manager, and our co-host.
And I am Devonie Bernard Small, the founder of Her Reality Project.
Our guests in this episode are Dr. Melanie Taylor-John, a medical doctor at Essential Medical Services, Justin Rookwood, background vocalist and first-time mom, and the man in our midst, Omar Genus, systems administrator and father of two. Today's topic of discussion, mental health, prenatal and postpartum depression and anxiety.
Dr. Melanie, can you define for us, what is prenatal and postpartum depression and anxiety?
So we now call it peripartum depression and anxiety. Reason being, previously it was found that the depressive symptoms would occur about 4 weeks after birth, but now we're realizing that these symptoms actually can occur during birth. So the peripartum pretty much encompasses that time period during pregnancy and after birth. A lot of people might be more familiar with what we call baby blues, and about 70% of women tend to have that. And pretty much what that is, you feel sad and you don't exactly know why you feel sad because you have this new baby and, everybody expects you to be happy because, you brought life into the world. Like, you just feel sad. You're always crying, or you're just not interested in things that you used to be interested in anymore. You don't feel like talking to your friends, family. You're eating too much or too little. You might be losing weight. You're sleeping too much or sleeping too little. And usually this might last about 2 weeks with baby blues. You don't need any treatment or anything like that. And it usually doesn't really affect functioning. But with peripartum depression and anxiety, that's a lot more severe, to the point where, unfortunately, some people might have feelings of harming themselves or harming their babies. And at that point, you definitely need treatment, whether it be with medication or a therapy. And that usually does affect functioning. Yeah.
So we're going to talk about the mental aspects of pregnancy now. So we're going to start with Justine. With mental health, how would you have defined your experience?
It was very rough. I had a good pregnancy, so I wasn't depressed during my pregnancy or anything like that. But when I had the baby, about 2 weeks after I had the baby, I was just sad, crying, and I was on edge. Do not touch my baby. Don't come. And then it was COVID time, so that made it worse. Don't come near my baby. Don't talk to me. And then I wasn't sleeping because afraid that she have seeds or something. So anxiety was taking me away, but at the time I wasn't sure it was anxiety or anything. My mother noticed that my behavior was strange because I was snapping at everybody. And so she called my doctor and stuff. And so I got, my doctor was saying maybe it's baby blues. But then when we realized it wasn't going away, that it was, okay, definitely postpartum depression and more anxiety than depression. So she put me on Xanax, as well as I did therapy because I never wanted to be medicated because I have this new baby and stuff,
How did you feel when they told you were actually experiencing this, seeing that the stigma attached to mental health?
I felt much better actually hearing that I was experiencing this rather than feeling like I was crazy because I felt like I was going mad for true. I was like, what? This is supposed to be a happy time in my life. I just had a baby. But I just sad. I just want to cry and I just want people to leave me alone. But knowing that, okay, you're going through something, you're not crazy, made me feel much better and made me more willing to open up to the idea of therapy, of taking medication, of getting better for my baby.
And having the discussion, because that's where it starts, dealing with it, understanding that this is definitely happening to me and I am going to seek help. Now, Omar, the male in the room, you would have had a total different experience because she's on the side where she's experiencing it directly, but did you experience this with your sons when they were born? Your wife, did she have any of these problems?
Yeah, definitely. With our first son, Josiah, it was a relatively smooth pregnancy, but the drama came afterwards.
He says drama.
You know, similar to what she was saying. My wife was just crying, and as a man, I'm like, okay, what's the problem? What can I do to solve it? But that didn't work, And what I had to do or rely on really was the community, the church community specifically. I had to just call up some persons, especially female. This is what Roxanne is going through. Can you just swing by? Can you just give her a call just to talk? Because I'm at work, I'm not there, and she's there with the baby, and the baby is crying, and it was a lot. It was a lot to deal with. So I definitely relied a lot more on my church community to help cope, because other persons who I would rely on or my first go-to, they just weren't available. Yeah, and I couldn't be there. I mean, I have to be at work, right? So that's what I did. And moments I would just bring stuff for her, ice cream, cake, just to make her feel sweet, feel like it's not the end of the world, because being home alone with the baby, all the neighbors are gone to work, So, I mean, it was a lot. And sometimes I had to just be on the phone with her, just call her, just to talk to her throughout the day.
Yeah. Did it affect you any at all, though, being on the other side? Have you ever feel like overwhelmed and you're leaving and you just feel anxious? Did it affect you in any? Because we tend to not talk about how the men feel. And that is why we want you here to tell us now, what are the men feeling on the other side?
That's true. I think my anxiety came whenever I have to leave the baby. I remember I was doing a project with Sophie, just being a father, and when I have to leave home, and tell the baby that I love you, and then have to drive off, and that was tough. That was tough. But outside of that, though, the most difficult thing for me was not being able to do more. Yeah. Because I am not experiencing what she's experiencing. She's just, exactly, she's just telling me some stuff, but I can't necessarily relate, right? I can empathize as best as I can, but I'm a man, yeah? And so I just felt helpless, what more can I do? And even when I say that, what more can I do? Like, okay, what are you going to do? Yeah.
So Dr. Melanie, how does this normally affect, if it does, affect the children or the babies involved?
Well, so one thing is we place a lot of emphasis on the bond between the child and the parents. You might hear about the mother-child bond. From the time the baby comes out, we try to place baby on mommy's chest so that they form that bond, and breastfeeding goes a lot smoother. But if mommy is depressed and kind of in her dark hole, isn't speaking to anyone, isn't able to speak to baby, isn't able to give as much love as she possibly can, then that does affect that bond. And the importance of that bond is really just helping baby to develop motor skills, language skills. And unfortunately, studies have shown that over time, if this depression is not treated, it could actually kind of retard baby's growth in those ways. So baby might not be reaching those kind of milestones. Also, you might find that if mommy isn't speaking to daddy, or daddy can also experience these depressive symptoms, this could affect marriages or relationships. And you might even find that divorces, as drastic as that may seem, tend to happen around this 1 year period of peripartum depression.
And that's interesting because for me, for example, when I was going through my postpartum depression, as opposed to the limited interaction with my baby girl, I wanted to just kind of hide her from the world. I don't want my mother talking to her, not even her father talking to her, persons around me. But can that affect her? Because, I guess in my household, I would assume that, or I would imagine that as a mother, it's good for her to obviously connect with her grandmother, her grandparents, her father, because it creates a space for her to feel safe, even as like a 2 weeks old, 4 months old baby. But in terms of hiding her for that 1 month, not hiding her because I gave me get all right, go hold her, may I take too much time type of thing. But with that as well, snapping, I snapped a lot, and I had so much rage, broke out glass and them something there. It was really crazy for me, and with all of that, I just kind of wanted to hide her. Can that affect the baby? And um yeah, that's the question.
Yeah, I mean, in the same way that you, as a mother, not speaking to baby and kind of promoting that language development, socialization is a big thing when it comes to growing up. So if baby's constantly seeing you, hearing your voice, and when it comes to nursery school and those kind of things, is going to be a whole bizarre world because, oh my God, I've never heard anybody else's voice apart from mommy. No, like I've never been hugged or, or held or, you know, it's going to be a bigger transition for them. And even more so, it's more strenuous for you.
All right. So on that note, how was it for you, Justine, when you tried to isolate yourself and the baby from everybody else? How did you get yourself out of that state?
Well, mm, with my depression and anxiety, it was more, yeah, like Jamila is like I wanted to keep her safe, but in my house, not for we, a lot of us. So it was never a case where she would only be hearing me. I'd give her to my mommy a lot because my anxiety got worse when I was tired. So my mommy would take the baby and I would sleep. And so in that, when she realized that I was locking up myself in my room with the baby, my mommy would come, no, relax, enjoy your little self. And she would take the baby so I could get a little time to breathe, a time to just be Justine outside of being Dia's mommy.
Mommy, right?
So yeah, that was it for me.
Well, for me, my experience with postpartum, I experienced it twice. In 2018, but I didn't go home with a baby. So I was kind of going through grievance and loss while experiencing postpartum depression. And, a lot of people don't talk about it when persons lose a child and have to go home to experience postpartum. Remember, you don't have that baby there, so it's kind of a different arena, different psychology to that part. And I remember at that time, that was when I felt like I wanted to harm myself. I literally just felt like I couldn't go through this. But then my second experience now, I was more aware. So I was better able to identify the signs. And also, I went through the peripartum because because of my previous experience, I was always anxious through the second pregnancy now. And for the entire time, I was like, oh my God, am I going to lose this child? Am I going to lose this child? And it's something that we have to understand that it happens. Once you've experienced a loss, it's like the trigger. So you're now pregnant, it's the trigger, and you're going to say, all right, it's a likely that it can happen again. But as a high risk, because I was a high risk as well, I want my high risk mommies to know that you can get through it too, with the help of that community, help of the church, the help of your friends, the help of your family. It's just one of them things, and you can get the help that you need. We have to know, get people comfortable with getting help. And that's what we want to get from this conversation too, right? We want to know that getting help is okay. So the husband is there, right, Daddy?
That's right.
And even though you ask the question and you are not getting the answers that you would want because everything that you say you're trying to do, you might not be able to impact the wife the way you want to, but at least you're trying. And you're going to encourage her to talk about it because that's something I knew I wanted more of. I want to be encouraged to talk about it. So even though you know that I went through this before and I can handle myself, the talking part and the patience and the divorce that you talk about, me, I just got married when I had my baby and all of these things. So, a new wife and all of these responsibilities, and you can't. The next episode, we will dive right into the next part of that problem. So I can tell you it's one of them things. So I am going to ask now. So Omar, how after that, what have it taught you to do, like to help your community of men that are going through the same thing?
I think one of the biggest challenges that men have is that we don't open up, we don't communicate a lot, right?
Yes.
Tell you.
The choir, come on, let me hear the amen.
Yes,
know,
yes,
um,
we're agreeing.
And for myself and my wife, one of the things that we established very early in our relationship is the importance or value of communication. It's like one of those central pillars, right? Whatever it is that you're going through, even if we're arguing, all right, maybe it can take a little 5 minutes or 10 minutes and half an hour, just to recoup, and then let's talk about what happened. Let's talk about how maybe what I've said, you interpreted it wrongly from how I wanted you to interpret it, or what I meant. And so we had established that very early. So during pregnancy and even after pregnancy, we still maintain that level of communication. So that's the biggest thing that I would throw out there. Men, we need to talk more and talk more to our partners, because the child did not just miraculously come in here, something happened and something happened and something happened. Yeah. So the fact is, talk to your partner. I mean, you might not be the most verbose person in the world, but that's okay, At least try and put yourself in her position. I mean, it's difficult, and I can even share some more about that with our second child. But the fact of the matter is that when we do that, when we say, hey, honey, like, how you feeling? Is there anything I can do? Do you want me to rub your feet? It communicates, I believe it communicates to your partner that you care and you're trying.
Yeah.
And because of that effort, then the partner will be more
open to talk
open.
about.
Exactly.
That's
exactly.
true.
So that's what I would say.
And Justine, why was it hard? Why do you think it's hard? It was hard for you to talk about it at first.
Because of the stigma. You Jamaicans believe that once you have something going on mentally, you are mad. You walk and call it, "I'm mad man that." I never want nobody calling me mad because I know I'm not mad. But I'm going through something, and so I'll keep it to myself out of fear that they're gonna say I'm mad. But then when I realized that keeping it to myself wasn't helping me or my baby, I have to talk about it.
So when do you know? At what point no? Because we are experiencing all of these symptoms. When do we, or when should we consult a professional to help us to get us, out of that issue? Melanie.
Well, for one, I think a major issue is everybody attributes the symptoms of depression to just pregnancy. Like, oh, it's just baby blues. But 2 weeks pass, 3 weeks pass, we're at 6 months. All right, when are we going to stop calling it baby blues? No, all right. I feel like the timeline is very important, all right? After that 2 weeks, if you realize you're not snapping back with the like the happiness not coming and you're still crying, that's where you need to, from day one, you should have had support. You should have been speaking to people about how you feel. And unfortunately, yes, you have the support of your family members, husband, mommy, grandparents. They play a major role, But sometimes you need professional help, You have exhausted all of that and you still feel the same way. So that's where you make an appointment with a therapist. I'm not saying to jump to medication, I'm not trying to shove medication down everybody's throats, but start therapy. That goes a very long way. If therapy doesn't work, then we move on to medications and we use both of those together. But definitely, again, the time period, and if you're having any feelings of harming yourself or harming the baby, definitely seek help.
Right. So I have a question for you as well. Mm-hmm. Let's speak about toxic positivity. Oh, yeah. What is that?
So there is this thing. I personally believe in having a positive mindset, saying like, yes, today's going to be a great day. But I see toxic positivity as, okay, a bus is coming down the road. You can manifest and believe all you want. Yes, I'm strong and nothing is going to happen to me. But if you step in front of that bus, you are going to get knocked down. Your bones are going to get broken, regardless of how positive you are. So for me, I I think when you tell somebody that's going through peripartum depression, it's going to get better, you know. You just need to look into baby's eyes and just be happy you have a child. Some people can't have children, you know.
Oh my
You have a
Yes,
kid.
exactly,
Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
I'm sure if mommy wanted to do that, she would have done that from day
Exactly. If it
one,
was so
you know.
easy, I would have done that.
Exactly.
Clearly looking in the baby eye wasn't working.
Exactly. And okay, I was saying that I resonate so much with that because after going through birth trauma, a lot of the times and just kind of expressing it to persons who are close family members, they would say, "At least you have the baby, but hello, what
Like,
about me?
I'm
Me
going
feel
through this.
away."
And people,
We
they
feel
give you a
away.
timeline as to when you're to
It's
feel
put-
sad.
exactly.
Get over it now, man.
Exactly.
There's
So
no timeline, right?
there's no timeline
There's
at
no
all.
time.
So Justine, I wanted to ask you, like, do you experience toxic positivity? Like, tell me what you do with it, girl.
I stop.
Yeah,
Because
rightfully.
I am sad. I don't know why I'm sad. I'm already experiencing this. You see me sad, and in yourself, you feel you must come talk about, get over it now, man. At least you have the baby. And if it was so easy, I would be over it.
Like they're undermining what you're feeling,
yeah,
right?
like I'm feeling something. So it's not so easy to get over, so I snap. And I'll be like, move.
Omar, this is particular probably for some men, you know, because some men who cannot understand it. Like for you now, do you ever find yourself being like that with your wife? You might be guilty or might not be, but we just want to put you on the spot.
Yeah, definitely.
You're guilty.
No, putting me on the spot. No, I've never had that feeling. In fact, it's the first I'm hearing that term, toxic positivity. You know, because I like to be a support for my wife. She's doing something remarkable. Only God Himself can help me to really understand what's going on in her body. And she just gave birth to our child, right? So with that in mind, all I was focused on is I'm just going to be there. I'm going to be there. I'm going to try and be there as emotionally as I can because, I mean, it's obvious that women are more emotional than men, right? We are more action-oriented, you know, results-oriented. Tell me what to do and I'll go do it, right?
Can we have the doctor weigh in a little bit on that, please?
What I would say is women probably have a lot more emotionally vulnerable periods. For example, you know, I'm not going to say you're wrong, but it's just how it's worded and how it could be interpreted. Yeah. But for example, you know, during...
You mean me saying women are more emotional?
Right.
Okay.
So, you know, during pregnancy, you have the hormones fluctuating. Before menstruation, you know, people have the premenstrual symptoms where they might be, yes, as you said, a bit more emotional. But I also do feel that men are very emotional. They just don't let on. They don't allow for that vulnerability, you know? So, yeah, so there's a hard exterior, but that doesn't take away from the fact that the interior is going through mass turmoil, you know?
That's true. That's true.
So how would you encourage family and friends to really assist moms during this period? Justine?
Just be supportive. Like, for example, with me, I thank God every day for my mother, my father, just my siblings, my entire family on a whole. They were just supportive. They understood that, okay, Justine is going through this because I am naturally a bubbly, happy person, but I was a shell of myself. And so everybody wanted me to be better. They wanted me to be back to cracking jokes and stuff. So everybody was just supportive. And if I needed help with the baby, I have help with the baby. I always run this joke and tell everybody that I'm the most well-rested baby mother under the sun. I sleep. Everybody take the baby and so I can sleep because they understood that when I am tired, it got worse. So, yeah, that was, thank God for my family. That's all I can say.
I would just pick back on what she just said. Be there. Be supportive. It could be emotional, you know, just calling to check in, or just show up. Just show up. Yeah, we did not have persons to kind of come here, see the baby, pass off the baby, you know. But again, we had persons who could call upon and just be on the phone half an hour, 1 hour. You know, I think that really helped. You know.
Dr. Melanie, do you have anything to say on that in terms of what's the best way to support mothers and fathers who are going through peripartum Depression
Yeah.
and anxiety.
I mean, they summed
Covered
it up well. So the depression is going to get worse if you're not sleeping, you know? It's going to get worse if you don't have support, somebody to, because, babies have different temperaments. You have some that might be a bit on the quieter side, but the ones that might be a bit crankier, that's not going to help with your depression. So the key to it is really to just, have somebody that is there that could take baby away from you so you could get maybe like 3 hours of rest. And I know support is not always there. So in the event that, unfortunately you don't have as much support as you would want, sleep when baby sleeps, whether it just be like an hour or 2 hours, but just getting that rest, definitely.
When you said sleep when baby sleep, one of the things that my wife shared with me, I mean, I couldn't understand, I couldn't fathom it.
You can't sleep.
She said,
You
exactly.
can't.
She said the slightest twitch, she gets up.
Exactly, the
So
anxiety.
she's always tired.
You just can't sleep with the baby there. And then if you put her in the crib, you worse can't sleep because you're looking over there to make sure okay. So when she's sleeping, I'm watching her sleep.
But you see, that's the vicious cycle, you see? And I think that's where you probably would need to step over and ask for some medical attention. Yeah.
But thank you, guests. That was lovely. Before we wrap, we have some nice goodies for you. If you can check behind your seat from Devonie Biscuits. Can you see?
So I should.
Yes, just reach around and just grab the bag. And we want to show everybody what you have in the bag. I love Devonie Biscuits little treats. Yeah, what you have? Chocolate shortcake.
Ginger shortcake.
Shortcake.
Nice.
That should be an interesting
Tasting
one. And of course, the popular from I was a child.
Matilio.
Yes. Digestive.
This was my
Love
go-to,
Thank you to our lovely guests for joining us. We really, really enjoyed it. Thank you for sharing all of those gems with us. And so we want to encourage anybody, mothers and fathers who are going through peripartum depression, anxiety, and or rage, to certainly reach out and get the help that you need, even though it may be as difficult as possible. But you have the energy, you have the strength to take care of yourself, and we are living testimonies, right? And we want to encourage you and inspire you to do the same for yourselves. But before we do wrap, we'd love to thank our sponsors, Devonie Biscuits, Premiere with Pinto, Her Reality Project, as well as Positive Parenting with VM Foundation. I'm your host, Jamila.
And I am Devonie Bernard Small. Thank you for tuning in, and tune in for our next episode. Keep safe.